Hi, everybody. I'm Amelia.
Hi, I'm Tom.
All right, we're Go Tell Communications, bringing you,
Hey.
yeah, another. Well, this story just about everybody knows, whether you're Christian or not. From Luke 15. Tom will tell it for us.
This is Jesus' parable about the kingdom of God. There was a father who had two sons, and the younger son came to his father and said, "Father, give me the share of the inheritance that is mine." And father divided his inheritance between them. Now, after not many days, the younger son gathered all his possessions and took a journey to a far country where he squandered his inheritance in loose living. And when he had spent everything, a famine arose in that land, and he began to be in want. So he went and hired himself to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into the fields to feed the pigs. And he wanted to eat the carob pods that he was feeding the pigs. And no one gave him anything. When he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare? And here I sit, starving to death." This is what I'll do. I'll go to my father and I will say to him, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. But would you take me as one of your hired hands?" So he got up and went to his father. His father saw him at a distance, and he was filled with compassion for him. And he ran and threw his arms around him and kissed him. But the son said, "Father, I've sinned against heaven and before you, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son." And the father said to his slaves, "Quick, get the best robe and put it on him, and a ring on his finger and shoes on his feet, and take the fatted calf and slaughter it, and eating it, let us rejoice. For this, my son, was lost and he is found. He was dead and he's alive." And they began to celebrate. Now, the elder son was out in the fields working. And when he came in, he heard the sound of music and dancing. And calling one of the slaves, he asked him what this might mean. And the slave said, "Your brother has come home, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he received him back safe and sound." And the brother, the elder son, was angry. And he refused. He absolutely refused to go in. And his father came out and began to plead with him. But the son said, "Listen, all these years I've slaved for you, and I never disobeyed one of your commands, And you've never even given me so much as a goat that I might celebrate with my friends. But then this son of yours comes home, who squandered your property with whores, and for him, you kill the fatted calf. And the father said, my son, you are always with me, and everything that I have is yours. But it is right that we rejoice and celebrate. For this, your brother was dead, and he was alive. He was lost, and he is found.
Well, thank you, Tom. Yeah, it's a well-known parable, regularly referred to as the parable of the prodigal son. But there's actually two sons in this story, and it's important to remember that. And
the focus, the ending is with the elder son.
Yeah, exactly. So what are there other stories in the Bible about a father with two sons that might?
Well, first of all, there's the first father, Adam, had two sons, Cain and Abel. And so the elder son was jealous of his brother, killed him. And then there's the story of Isaac with his sons Jacob and Esau. And Esau was on the verge of killing Jacob for all that he had tricked him out of. And so he was furious at Jacob. So Jacob ran off. When he came back, he thought his brother was going to kill him. So he sent all his wives and concubines and children and goats and sheep and everything ahead of him. Then he came and
kind of smoothed the path, so to speak.
Yeah, Esau embraced him. And so you have these two possibilities of what can happen between two sons.
Yeah, right.
In the tradition.
Well, the first thing that happens in this story, after the introduction of these three main characters, is that the younger son asks his father for his inheritance. But what's the implications of that?
Oh, the implication is that he wanted him to be dead, and that he wanted to hurry up the process of the distribution of the property. We just saw a movie
Sanditon, right?
The whole theme where she's this older woman is sure that everybody's out to get her money, and so she's cynical and tough. Well, this father.
Well, and she says, I have news for you. I am not going to die.
Right.
Obviously, she's going to sometime, but not yet.
Yep.
Yeah, Sanditon.
So right. That's the spirit of this, was that, and what's incredible is that the father divides his property between them. Yeah. So it was legally possible, but it was an I don't know, we can't say it was an insult. It was a wish, a death wish that was being, exercised by the younger son.
Okay, so the younger son, guess what he asked for? Maybe more than one way. Goes off to a far country. Things go well at first, but then he kind of goes downhill. How downhill does he go?
He goes as low as you can go. You want to say low? Oh, he said low, lower. Get as low as you can get. That's how low he got. So, he spent everything. It was clearly a country of the Gentiles. So he was compromising his identity as a son of Israel. And so he spent it all in loose living, which, wine, women, and song. And then he spent everything, and there was a famine, which were frequent, and he didn't have anything. So he hired himself. So hiring himself as a slave to a Gentile farmer, and he sent him out to feed the pigs, which is the worst possible thing for a Jewish boy. So he was constantly unclean, and and it's not just a Jewish thing. I don't know if you've ever been around pigs, but they are how shall we put it? Fragrant.
Yeah, they really
really,
smell.
really dirty.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, they do clean up, but they do.
Well, they clean up.
They wallow. Yeah, they
wallow in mud in
Yeah.
order to keep their skins moist.
Yeah.
So they really stink, and more in the Middle East, they stunk even more because they had to wallow in their piss and shit in order to keep their skin wet. So they really stank in the context of a country where everything was dry. So he was ritually unclean. He was personally unclean. He was filthy, stank, and he was so hungry that he wanted to eat the stuff that he was feeding the pigs. So
that's pretty low.
He was as low as he could get.
Yeah. So then he comes to his senses. I think you said he comes to himself, which is a little
right. That's the phrase in the Greek.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
came to his,
what does that mean?
Well, it means that he turned inside. He was thinking. He was sitting there in the mud, and he came to himself. He came to his right mind. And
now, do you think he was just strategizing or was he? What was he in a repentant mode here, or was he just trying to figure out how to survive? Which you can't.
Well, it's not clear in the story at this point whether he was. I mean, he was clearly calculating. He was thinking, I'm in bad shape, and the hired hands of my father have more than enough to eat. What am I going to do? I can go home, but I have to. I have to beg for forgiveness.
Okay, so that's
whether it's repentance or not, we don't know. Later in the next episode, it becomes clear that he is repentant because he asks his father, I've sinned against heaven and before you, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. And he stops. He doesn't ask. So in telling the story, it's important for there to be a pause there for where he would have said, please take me on as one of your hired hands.
Okay.
Nope. He doesn't ask for anything. He just says, I have sinned. So it's clear that he is repentant. And
okay, and then the father's response to that is to offer him 4 things, right? Basically, a ring, a robe, shoes, and a feast.
Yep.
Yeah, is that kind of over the top, maybe?
It's as totally over the top as he was down low. If you want to be low, his father was over the top. And that these 4 things are the continuation of the extent of his being over the top. Distinguished fathers of sons in the Middle East in the 1st century did not run. And so he gathered up his robes and he ran when he saw him from a distance and put his arms around him and kissed him before he had done anything.
Mhm.
He had wished him dead. And the father responded with this kind of compassion. And then this celebration is a classic instance of Jesus' use of hyperbole, of exaggeration, because no father would have gone to that extent. But he clearly was overjoyed that his son had celebrated in this way.
Sorry, the dog has come in and she's rolling around and making noises. I'm trying to get her to stop. You can probably see her tail there at the bottom.
Speaking of,
Yeah. Celebration. She's
right.
all right. Then after all of that, the elder son comes back on the scene. And
Right.
he is not happy with this situation.
Not happy at all.
No, he's really
He
angry.
is absolutely furious.
Yeah.
And his not going in to celebrate is an insult to his father. It puts his house, his family to shame. That people would wonder, well, why isn't he here? The fact that he isn't is insulting to his father and to the whole family. So yeah, he's really ticked.
Do you think the elder son's going to forgive the younger son? I mean, do we have any indication in the story at all?
Nope. I think I think the ending is directed to the listeners, and that everybody who hears this parable has to answer the question, should he forgive him or should he kill him? And the clear norms of judgment that are implied in the parable are that the elder son was right to be furious. Now, that doesn't mean that he would be right to kill him, but that he would be really angry is clearly fully appropriate, and that everyone who heard the parable would understand. Even though he insults his father by the way he talks to him, he doesn't even say my father or father or anything. He just says, listen, all these years I've slaved for you. Well, he wasn't a slave. He was going to inherit the whole thing. The elder son would inherit twice as much as the younger son. But he's really angry. And
Does the father responds to him and says, you're my son and never what's he say? Everything that I have is yours, or
yeah, it all belongs to you.
Yeah.
And it does now. Everything that the father, the younger son, had taken his inheritance, so the elder son got everything that was still, everything that was there. Everything that the father had now belonged to and would be inherited by the elder brother.
So the father does not respond to in like kind to the elder son's anger. He responds again with love, essentially.
With compassion, right.
And pointing out the reality of the situation.
Right. And he isn't angry back at the son. He rather is compassionate and pleads with him.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any implications in this story for ministries of peace and justice today?
Yes, it is all about the centrality of forgiveness in conflict resolution. One of the things that happens, I think, sometimes with justice ministries is that people get really angry and self-righteous about the offense that they have encountered, and that's often fully appropriate. They get angry at God, and so they and respond with anger. Jesus' purpose in this parable is to plead with everyone who hears this parable to forgive and to have that be a place of the beginning of reconciliation. So he is not about revenge or about hostility in response. He's about forgiveness and reconciliation. And that's central to ministries of justice and peace.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks everybody for watching. Wonderful, wonderful parable. Maybe sometimes a little problem because it's so familiar. So you might be considering some of the things that Tom talked about to see if there's a little bit different angle that you might come to your understanding and learning of this parable.
Well, and one of the, I would add, one of the things that this parable clearly reflects is that Jesus, and Paul for that matter, accepted slavery as part of the, so he doesn't respond with injustice or anything to the description of the father's slaves. So Jesus in the New Testament accepted the system of slavery. The story of Philemon is, Paul.
Yeah, I think we're going to a whole nother topic. And
well, I just think it's important to recognize that the cultural context in which this story is told.
Right. Okay. But don't use this story to justify slavery, please.
No.
Okay.
No way.
All right. Have a good week, everybody.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.